Okay.
Morning, everyone. Let's call to order the Cuyahoga County Convention Facilities Development Corporation special meeting of Board of Directors for the date of Thursday, March 14th, 2024. Julie, can you please call the roll?
Yes, Debbie Berry. Debbie Berry. Jeff Epstein. David Gilbert.
Here.
Majee McClue.
Here.
Trevor McAleer.
Here.
Michael Obie.
Here.
Tim Oftermatt. Rashonda Smith.
Here.
Mayor Sellers.
Here. We have a quorum.
We have a quorum.
All right, I will open the agenda up as follows for public comment from the public. We'll offer that to anyone who wants to make public comment right now.
We have Gary Kaplan from Siegel and Schuster.
Yes. Good morning, everybody. Again, my name is Gary Kaplan. I'm the president of the Siegel and Schuster Society. Our nonprofit, the mission of our nonprofit is to commemorate and to celebrate the creation of Superman in Cleveland by Jerry Siegel and Joe Schuster. And what better way to do that with a great statue of Superman, along with statues of the creators. Our goal for many years has been to recognize not just the creators of Superman, but really the creators of the entire superhero genre, because Superman was the very first comic book superhero. There were no superheroes in comic books prior to that. And today, the superhero genre is bigger than ever. Movies, TV shows, and it all started with two teenagers from Glendale High School who came up with this idea, which changed so much of American culture and indeed the world's culture, because you can go to any country today, Japan, China, whatever, and you can find people wearing Superman t-shirts. It all started right here in Cleveland. A very important part of our history of our city. And we think Clevelanders should be very proud. And we also believe that people will want to come to Cleveland and the convention center to see the statues of Superman and the creators. And by the way, there's also a telephone booth in this project, which is of course where Clark Kent used to change his clothes. And there will be Clark Kent's clothes and eyeglasses will also be in this piece of art, which looks just like a telephone booth. We look forward to having the support of the convention center board. And we think this is a win-win situation for everybody.
All right, comments on the public comment?
Mr. Chair, can I for a minute?
Go ahead,
quick?
Trevor.
I just want to take a moment to thank Gary. I mean, we've been from the council president's side. I think we probably had our first meeting 4, maybe 5 years ago. It was definitely before COVID, about potential sites for the Superman statue. The sites have moved from multiple locations over the years. So I just wanted to thank Gary and his colleagues. There's probably a half a dozen or so that we've met with over the last 4 or 5 years for their work and dedication to this. And also thank Ellis Katz from Jeff's team to really help us get to the point that we're at today. So just wanted to thank everybody for that.
Thank you.
I'm gonna recognize, see Debbie Berry has joined us, Tim Oftermatt. I'm gonna recognize them as board members that just joined the meeting this morning. All right, I'm gonna turn this over to next thing on the agenda to Jeff Appleby to talk about the Superman statue letter of intent.
Okay, and thank you. And I think what we'll do is kind of do this a little bit in reverse. Ellis, why don't you show everybody what we're talking about? And then I will come back to essentially the letter of intent and the deal and how this will work going forward if approved by the board.
Sure.
Do the model for this?
Jeff was the model.
That's what I had here.
So what you're looking at on the screen is actually a maquette that was developed by Cleveland artist David Deming. David Deming is a pretty well-regarded artist from around the country. He's done presidential sculptures. He's been in art galleries and museums all around the country. He's been awarded many awards. He's a professor of art, and so he developed these statues for Superman. And the intent of the Superman statue is that he would be flying on this blue pylon about 18 feet in the air. He's full size, and he's going to be in a matte stainless steel finish. Hold on 1 second, you're going a little too fast. This required approval by DC Comics, which Gary has been working hard on with the Siegel and Schuster Society. And DC Comics has now endorsed the Superman statue and his likeness. So along with the Superman statue, if you can go to the next page, this is a statue of Siegel and Schuster, they'll be life-size bronze statues, along with the model that was, correct me if I'm wrong, Gary, but this is the model of Lois Lane, who, and after many years, is it Siegel or Schuster? Siegel met her again at a conference and married her, and so she is the second wife of Siegel. And so she was also Lois Lane, so the three of them, original model, so they're looking up at Superman. You go to the next page. And then this is the phone booth that Gary was talking about, and it'll be eternally illuminated at night. It'll have protective glass around all four sides, so people can't open it or anything like that. But you can see that there'll be his clothing inside, his glasses, where Clark Kent has changed into Superman. Next slide.
Ellis,
Yes, sir.
we'll probably have to do some type of description of what a phone booth is for those.
The site is at the corner of Ontario and St. Clair, and you can see it in the red square. It will have direct sight lines from Public Square, which is gonna be really cool, especially at night when it's lit up. Next slide. This is the corner that's gonna be envisioned to be put. It's actually, the timing is working very, very well for us, because as a part of the convention center expansion, this area was gonna be renovated anyway. And so this new plaza is gonna be completely redone and designed specifically for placing these statues. Next slide. So here's the floor plan, the site plan of how the Superman's gonna work. So to the top of the image is Ontario, to the left of the image is St. Clair. Superman is gonna be located in the top right corner. It says you can see the sign that says Superman sculpture. Maybe you can move your mouse around it. So we created this cross link of paving with using stone pavers that will connect that Superman with the larger rectangle along the diagonal where Siegel, Schuster, and Lois Lane will be looking up at him. And then further back at the farthest bottom left corner is where the statue is gonna be. So they're all kind of encompassed into this paving pattern. The other diagonal was a result of review sessions that we had with Landmarks Commission, so we needed that pathway anyway. So this kind of completes the picture and ties it all together. Next page. So now here's some pretty pictures of what we're envisioning the project will look like all together in rendered form. The aerial view. One thing you'll notice is that Superman is almost directly on axis with our big glass window that we're gonna have in the ballroom expansion. So when you're inside the ballroom, you're gonna be able to see Superman. And these are just various views of how the statues are gonna relate to the plaza.
Yeah, one thing I should say about Ellis, assuming that we go forward with this, one thing that we, well, assuming the board approves it, one thing we're talking about is there'll be a period of time, before Superman is installed, when they're still completing their fundraising, when our ballroom is open and you have the window, so, displaying, the future rendering, displaying in some fashion, what's to come, will be, something for us.
Yeah, I know, Ron, you've been thinking about ideas of how to do that. Yeah.
Because it's always exciting when something opens up and there's something to look forward to that's coming, and you get to talk about it and show it and advertise it.
So that's the presentation. That's what it's gonna look like. So the next steps for us is, provided the board approves the project, we have to get started in building the foundations and the underground lighting to light these sculptures right away, so that we can get the plaza complete in time for the ASAE convention. That's our critical path.
Okay, so before we go that route, let me open up the floor to questions.
Sure.
From the board members about the presentation before we get down to the particulars and the details. Any board member have a question?
This is David. I do have one. I'm excited. I think this is great. I think it will add a lot of excitement. I'm just curious where you mentioned the fundraising, where the group is with the fundraising, and just the feeling of likelihood of the funding for two reasons. So, we're obviously going to put money in as an organization if we approve this on the paving, the lighting, and so on. Just want to make sure that we feel confident that that what we put in will ultimately have a statue on it.
Okay, want me to address that?
Yeah, go ahead, Gary.
All right, so, our nonprofit is providing the seed money for this. We've agreed to provide $174,000 to cover the initial costs with the electrical lines going under the concrete and architectural change orders. And we're going to be providing that. The moment we have, our legal documents are signed with the convention center. And that should be a matter of days, right?
I hope so.
Well,
Yeah.
I'll talk about that.
Okay, okay. We have a little over $500,000 right now. The statue's gonna cost more than that. We're estimating it probably close to 1.8 million, possibly more. We have partnered with the Cleveland Foundation. We've met with them. They're gonna begin the fundraising soon. They have a great deal of confidence that they'll have no problems raising the rest of the money. And I know some people personally who have offered to contribute large sums of money to this. So I don't have any doubt about the fundraising for this all. In fact, when we did a fundraiser many years ago to renovate Jerry Siegel's home in Glenville, we just put it on the internet. Within 24 hours, we had $100,000 from donations from all over the world. So it's just not Clevelanders all doing it. Although we think the bulk of the money is gonna come from some philanthropic Clevelanders.
This is Tim Offhead. I'm interested in the plan for long-term maintenance and repair.
And let me address all that in the LOI in just a second, because we'll talk about that in a minute.
Okay.
This is Debbie, and I apologize, my camera's not working, but I have a couple of questions. Does this need to be approved by the Monuments Commission? And I know it does need to go through some level of City Planning Commission approval or landmarks approval. When does that process happen? And are we installing foundations before that? How does that fit in?
Yeah, Debbie, the answer is yes. Maybe it makes sense for me to kind of walk through the rest of what we have in the LOI, and then we can kind of address all those questions together, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, we'll do that.
You know what, Jeff, let me ask one more question that maybe is more about design. Somebody made a joke about explaining what a phone booth is, but is there additional interpretation? Because I think just your even explanation of, who the three people are, not everyone's going to understand all that. Is there any kind of plaque or dedication
yes.
or anything that explains or says more about it than just looking at it?
Yes, there's going to be a plaque that explains how Superman was created.
Okay.
By Siegel and Schuster. Jerry Siegel's daughter has agreed to put together wording for this. She's in California and she's my cousin, and we talk regularly, just like I talk to DC Comics regularly. DC Comics also wants to review every word that goes in
Language, yeah.
They want to make sure, and so people understand the history behind it, yes.
And where and how does that then fit into the whole, landscape of this? Because ultimately, again, through the planning commission approval, they're going to want to see each and every component. And then there's obviously an extra cost, to fabricate whatever it is that piece is, mounted on. I'm just kind of wondering, is that shown in the rendering you showed before?
No, we still have to work on that placement, but we'll coordinate that quickly, because I think we're gonna have to show that as a part of the submission.
Right.
So Debbie, just real quickly, I mean, we do plan on submitting our application to the Cuyahoga Monuments Commission with the hopes of getting on their agenda on the 29th. We also plan on submitting to the Design Review Committee and the Landmarks Commission, from which our projects, we sit in the Landmarks District, as soon as we get this LOI signed. So I'm hoping it could be still this week that we put in our request to get on their agenda. They're familiar with it. Joyce Wong and Tara Peters are both familiar with the project, as is the head of the Monuments Commission at the Cuyahoga County.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? What, let Jeff go to explanation? All right, hearing none, Jeff.
Okay, thank you. So, what we have been doing, we've had, some meetings on this. We have, essentially negotiated, subject to the board's approval, a letter of intent, which I sent to you all a couple days ago, and you should have. And the letter of intent, it was important to get this done now, because the threshold issue, as Ellis said, is we've got to go forward with this foundation and electrical package if we're gonna, because of our construction schedule. And I want to point out to everybody, the work that we're doing right now, we all obviously are hopeful, that the entire project is funded, sculptures, everything happens. But I want to point out that there's no risk and no issue, frankly, for the CCCFDC if that does not happen. Because the work that we are doing, this plaza, was going to happen anyway. And all of this work is essentially infrastructure subsurface work. So if we ultimately don't end up with these sculptures, it's not like we have something half built. So this is frankly no risk for the CCCFDC, no risk for the county. You know, the risk, if you will, is frankly on the Siegel and Schuster Society, because they're putting up this money, and if they don't fund the rest of the venture, they will have lost that money. Now, obviously, we're very supportive and we're going to be helpful, but I want to point that out. There's no risk in terms of moving forward with this LOI right now. In terms of the LOI, the basic concept, as you can see in it, is number one, this initial work will be funded. Number two, after this is, funded, obviously, as Ellis already indicated, we have a series of things we have to do very quickly. We already actually have the draft of the, for the Monuments Commission. That application has already actually been drafted. And the approval elements, we understand that we will quickly walk through. We have had discussions with the county because there's in our agreements with the county, aside from the Monuments Commission, there's arguably a separate consent or approval that the county has to give to this. I've had those discussions with the county's lawyer, Greg Huth. He has reviewed the LOI. The decision was made that the county should also be a signatory on the LOI, which they are. County will also ultimately be a signatory on the definitive agreement, the donation and maintenance agreement, because they do have obviously an interest in this. They have an interest in the property as the owner of the property, and ultimately, the ultimate landlord in essence of the property. So they're signatory to this. There are several provisions in the LOI that contemplate what occurs. The most significant is that ultimately it is the responsibility of the society to do everything with respect to the development, procurement, installation of the ultimate sculptures that you saw. They will bear all of the expense of that, other than the expense that they are already providing for the plaza. At that point, we will complete any work on the plaza. That was part of our normal construction process anyway, so that's ours. In the future, the understanding is that the society will take care of all expenses required to maintain the sculptures. As they develop the sculptures, there will be a protocol that will be developed for how they are cleaned, how they are maintained. That will all be the responsibility of the society. My belief, I think, Gary, we talked about the fact that your thought is that as part of your fundraising, you're also going to create some sort of a fund for that.
An escrow account.
An escrow account, and that will be, and we will of course require that because we need the security that's done. That will be in the definitive agreement. There will also, have to be insurance. The property will have to be, where the sculptures will have to be insured if there was any risk associated with vandalism or whatever, that would be part of that agreement. So they would take care, essentially, they take care of that. We take care of the plaza and all the area around it. And that is part of the operations and maintenance, and insurance. Obviously, there's the question of intellectual property. It's up to, the donors here to take care of everything with DC Comics. And they are securing and making sure that they have responsibility for the intellectual property rights. And any, if there was any claim made against us, by DC Comics, that's their responsibility. So that's all part of the agreement. There will be issues, things that we will kind of talk about in terms of the right to use the image, for, our advertising, and that's all dealt with in the agreement. Other than that, there's other things that, also are discussed. For example, if in the future we should decide to expand again and we need to take over that plaza area, we would have the right at some, point in time, if the sculptures have to be moved or placed in a different area, both parties have rights. If that occurs, that's discussed in the agreement. And that, there's other details, but that's essentially what this LOI has. So the process would be right now, with your approval of the LOI, that will enable us to go forward, get the LOI signed, and with the county signing it, it gives us what we need to go forward with the Monuments Commission, with the other approvals. It will be the event that allows us to obtain the funding, to issue the change order to Turner to proceed. And then for right now, that's what we need at the present moment. We will then proceed to negotiate the definitive agreement and continue to move forward with the rest of the project. But that's the urgency and the reason that we need to act right now.
Question?
Jeff, what's the timeline on the definitive agreement as to when you think it'll be finished?
Go, Gary.
We think it will be up in early April. And hopefully have an unveiling in mid-April. It would be nice to have a reception.
Yeah, I think it's a different question. But let's divide this into two things. First of all, just in terms of getting the definitive agreement, I mean, we can get that done within a matter of probably 30 days after we sign this. Obviously, we'll have to come back, we'll have our executive committee talk about a few of the issues. We'll come back to the board ultimately probably at a regular meeting with the definitive agreement. In terms of your process, why don't you talk about your process with this?
With the statue getting it in the foundry and all, does that?
Yeah, well, just your moving forward at this point in time with this signed, we do our work.
Right.
Why don't you talk about your next
So
steps,
our
your
next
announcements?
process is once things are signed and the fundraising can begin, the statues are, well, they're clay models made by David Deming, sculptor, and they have to be shipped to a foundry in Texas. The bronze statues, there's a lot of foundries do bronze statues, but stainless steel, and he is the man of steel, that's why he's gonna be stainless steel. There's very few foundries that do that. It's a very difficult process. They have to raise the temperature to very high degrees, and they have to be careful about bubbles and so forth. And so, that's why this foundry in Texas is gonna be handling that. David Deming said he's personally gonna drive his truck down to Texas, take it there. It takes about 9 months to do this process. It's a complicated process. Otherwise, we could have it up sooner. It's just not physically possible.
Well, I
And
think you
then-
just went sort of where the question I had is what's the duration? So we do this letter of intent, you do the foundation work. Is there a deadline by which the statute would have to be there, or otherwise sort of we
No.
can move?
No, the answer is once the only deadline, the only hard deadline we have right now is to get this foundation work in so that there's no impact or delay on our opening the convention center expansion. At that point in time, quite honestly, there's no deadline. Now, what there is a goal, and I think what Gary will tell you is the goal is basically, by next April, basically in a year from now, to have everything done, and then a year from now to be an event to have the grand unveiling of the sculptures. But basically, the plan is get everything done right now, which with the signing of this should not be an issue. At that point in time, they're into their fundraising mode, they're into their fabrication mode, and it's about a year to get everything done and put into place. So that's the plan.
No. So I guess the question that I'm at, we're effectively giving them the exclusive right to the area to install the statue. If things don't go as anticipated, and we're 5 years down the road and there's still nothing there, and we have other proposals for the site, is it held in perpetuity?
No, I mean, that will be something that, once again, I have to tell you, the exclusivity period right now is simply to the point in time that we get the definitive agreement done. And then, the issue as to how long they will have to actually implement this, that will be in the definitive agreement. And frankly, that's something we have to come back and talk to, because I think right now we get started, they're gonna give us more of an idea as to what and we're gonna give them some time. We're gonna give them.
No, I agree, and I think there should be, there should be an adequate cushion in there in terms of the deadline, but there's got to be a deadline by when this has to be.
What I was saying was we're gonna give them some time to come here in the next 30 days or so. They're gonna have more of that plan and give us some time to tell us what that deadline will be. We have not pushed them on that absolute deadline. Right now, their plan is to have everything done by next April. A year from April.
I see Michael Obi has his hand up.
Yes, Jeff, I was wondering, as you're describing this LOI, once this become a reality, just in addition to Majid question, does it make sense to make this a lease to the society? Do you envision it being you're leasing this area to them from a liability standpoint?
Well, let me make 2 points about that. First of all, there's some guidance as to how this is done in the actual, in the code under the Monuments Commission. This is treated as a donor situation. And, we still want to maintain control of the plaza. We don't want to give up effective control of the plaza. We want to control security. We want to control the ability to clean and maintain the plaza. So what we're really doing here is, we want them to have responsibility for the sculptures and everything about the sculptures, but we really do need to maintain control of the plaza, because we have to ensure, because the plaza is, aside from being a place where these sculptures are, it is still the, part of the front door of our facility. So we need to maintain real estate control of the plaza, and we don't want to give that up. So I guess that's the answer.
What's that mean? Who maintains the monuments and statues?
We maintain the plaza. So everything about that plaza, in terms of, cleaning it for snow, in terms of, securing it, that's all us. Yeah, all of that.
Yeah.
Their responsibility is actually the sculptures themselves. They don't, that is their responsibility. Our responsibility is the plaza, which we want to maintain control of.
And we would have to maintain that with or without a statute.
Yeah,
that's
that's the
right.
whole point.
I'm asking.
So they have the sculptures themselves.
So you have the.
We take care of this, we keep them clean. If there's any vandalism, we,
Yeah, I was just about to ask about.
we'll have
that.
insurance, that will
It's
cover.
insurance,
Yeah.
Okay,
responsibility for
Yes.
cleaning, for repairing, for
Yes.
capital
That's our
repair,
responsibility.
risk of loss. That's all theirs.
these are sitting in the wide open, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Nigga, that's one enough. That could get out there.
Well, you
Yeah.
have to, one of the things that, a phone booth, sculpture is kind of an attractive nuisance. So, you have to make sure that, we have to have proper security. We have to maintain the area. And that's true with any public art. Which is why if you take a look at the code provision, it basically says when someone wants to donate art to the county or to a county entity, there's a series of responsibilities. Donor has to take responsibility for, which we would do anyway, but it's also required by code, which is why it's in the LOI that way it is.
Any other questions? I think we need to take a vote on the LOI. Any questions before we call for the vote for approval for to move into the LOI? All right, and,
Move to approve.
all right, so there's a who made that motion? Trevor?
It was,
Trevor made the motion to
I
approve
second.
this. Michael Obi makes a second. All right, Julie, want to call the roll? No, any questions to the motion? All right, hearing none, Julie, can you call the roll, please?
Sure. Debbie Berry,
Yes.
Jeff Epstein, David Gilbert,
Yes.
Majid McClue,
Yes.
Trevor McAleer,
yes,
Michael Obi,
Yes,
Tim Oftermatt,
Yes.
Rashonda Smith,
Yes.
Mayor Sellers.
Yes. All right, thank you. All right,
Thank you.
this will be sweet. I would make sure that, well, my suggestion. When you do the placard, the information, I hope that you make reference that came out of Glenville High School.
Yes, we definitely will. We're actually working on.
But it should be known.
Did you go to?
No.
Okay, well, we are actually working with Glenville High School right now.
Okay,
We're gonna be putting up a display case there, this coming summer.
because I never knew that.
And, because not everybody that graduates there is aware that Superman was created by
Yeah, no, I know.
11th graders.
I have no idea.
And, yeah,
That is.
it is quite a story.
Yeah.
As an aside, Mayor, if I may, David Deming, the artist, when we started doing the artwork here at the convention center, he was the first artist to have his sculptures on display, have art on display here. And we actually still he donated to us one of his sculptures that's still here.
Yeah, of course, he did all these great statues like Jim Tomey and Jim Brown, all this. And he was president of the Cleveland Institute of Art for many years.
Hmm.
So he's quite very good. And by the way, I don't know if you know this or not, but there's a new Superman movie that's gonna be
Yes.
filming. They're starting filming this June, and part of it's gonna be filmed in Cleveland.
They're calling for extras now, Jeff.
Yeah, they want 3,000 extras, some of it's gonna be filmed in Cincinnati. but
Body
Cleveland-
doubles.
Yes, and the movie's gonna premiere a year from this July, which would be great to have our dedication to the statues. And then the movie comes out in the summer. That would be great. And by the way, a lot of people don't know this, but when Superman first came out in 1938, for that whole year, he did not work for the Daily Planet in Metropolis. He worked for the Cleveland Evening News. Then he became a journalist in a fictional town called Metropolis. And while I don't know this for a fact, I do know the movie, they're not giving out too much information about the movie, but the movie's called Superman Legacy. The movie's really about his early years as a journalist. And the fact that they're gonna be filming in Cleveland might suggest that he might be working as a journalist in Cleveland, possibly Cleveland Evening News. Can't say that for a fact, but
Uh.
that would be awesome.
That would be awesome.
It would really put Cleveland on the map.
And we talked about maybe
Ties it into
doing
the project.
some sort of display at ASAE so people know
Correct.
what's coming.
Right.
So.
And there you can have more of the history.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Yeah, of course, I have to remind everybody, and I'm in regular contact with the senior attorney at DC Comics and Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers is the parent company
Yeah.
of DC Comics. And everything has to go through them. So, I gotta tell them about the meeting today. I mean, I'm in counseling. So if the convention center wants to promote Superman to draw in conventions here, you have to get their permission for that, which I think you should be able to. They're very protective of their brand. I currently have a very good rapport with them. And hopefully the convention center will fix the same.
And we actually, in the definitive agreement, we're gonna talk a little bit more about how that will work going forward, how we coordinate, are we coordinating on that with the society, with DC. We'll talk a little bit more about how that's done in the expanded agreement.
Okay.
And, we have a Comic-Con coming here in April, the Fan Expo. And it's been one, last year, I think, typically one almost every year.
Yep.
And it'll draw more people, just the fact that the Superman statue project, because the real fans know about it. They know who Siegel Schuster are, not everybody in the world does, but they know.
All right, thank you. That's good stuff.
Thank you.
My work is done hard.
Yes.
You have another issue. I know.
You want to stick around for that?
No, I'll let you guys think that.
So let's go to the next item on the agenda, the cannabis show. I'm turning over to Ron King.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There was a email that I believe most of you saw that was circulated yesterday afternoon regarding the show. This is the second time this show has come to us to request a license agreement to do a trade show here at the convention center. The first time was Travis, about 2 years ago, roughly. Well, let me back up. We ASM in our management agreement with CCCFDC has a restriction for doing any types of shows that may have drug paraphernalia. So that's why we are coming here to the board. Jeff will talk more about that in a moment, because I believe the CCCFDC has that also.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
So as far as the show goes, this is their second time to come, to request a license agreement. They are a known entity. They've done several shows. They've been around for about 9 years, have done several shows in other facilities. Some of those other facilities happen to be ASM facilities. We have contacted those facilities and have gotten very good reviews about this client and their shows, saying that they are very professional and there's been no issues. There will not be any cannabis on the show floor. There will be some paraphernalia on the show floor. That paraphernalia may be for sale. This is designed to be a business-to-business show, more of a, if someone wanted to get into the dispensary business or the cannabis business, how do you go about that? What are the laws around that type of thing? So that's the type of show it is, more of a business-to-business show. And I would answer any questions regarding the show.
The floor is open. I can see.
Hey, Ron, it's Tim. I've got a question, and that maybe you or Travis could answer. Yeah, and this is just something that struck me as I was looking at the other venues that this show has been staged at. Even in major markets, except for the Colorado Convention Center.
Yes.
The show was staged sort of at the second tier centers in those markets. And I was wondering if you had any insight as to why that might be. Maybe the communities didn't want to put them in the primary centers I was just curious, that's something that just struck me as somebody that knows
Yeah.
something about these centers in various markets.
Right, I don't have any, information on that. I know, for example, they, were in Oklahoma City. They were at Javits in New York, but, my guess, and it's a guess, so I probably shouldn't even say that, Tim, but my guess is it's less expensive in those secondary facilities.
Okay.
But that's just a guess.
For Jeff, what's your view on changing the lease with the county to specifically allow for this?
Yeah, so, and I will tell you, I had a conversation, on this, with Greg Huth. And by the way, there's a piece of business here, that frankly I hadn't thought about, that we have to clean up anyway. So this prohibited uses, this exhibit D, this exact same list actually, well, not the exact same list. The exact same list with one exception continues, to be, an exhibit to one of our agreements with the county. And the exception is, because as you may recall, this originally also had tattoo show in it. We dealt with it here. Frankly, we dealt with it here. It was never actually changed in the exhibit with the county, which really does, the county knew about it and they were all part of that decision, but, so that actually has to be modified anyway. In this particular case, the concept of drug paraphernalia, which is also in our lease with the county. So let me say a couple things about it. It has nothing to do with what the law is, because the concept of whether we permit a show with drug paraphernalia or not is basically up to us and up to the county, because there is no technical, definition of drug paraphernalia. There's no question about the fact that when this was first entered into, when marijuana was still a controlled substance, an illegal substance, that we would not have permitted a show, cannabis show. Now, obviously with issue 2, that has changed. So I don't think the intent of this provision, is the same today as it would have been when this was done. Having said that, however, I think what we ought to do, I mean, my recommendation or my thought would be if the board wants to go forward with this show, I don't think this prohibits it, because in my view, this cannabis show does not involve drug paraphernalia based on how that definition would have been used before issue 2. So I don't think there's an issue with doing this if we want to do it. Now, having said that, I do think it's probably worthwhile cleaning this up a little bit and talking to the county about modifying the language. Perhaps this is redefined to say that this references paraphernalia involving a controlled substance which is illegal for use in the state of Ohio, so there's no confusion. That's my view of it right now.
Yeah, I really think that revision is necessary, using the word illegal and instead of Ohio. That kind of, I think that would make more sense versus leaving it open like that. So, yeah, I definitely will prefer or recommend that, this be modified to use that word illegal drugs in the state of Ohio.
Yeah,
I do have a comment or question if we decide to move forward, just for consideration. To really reach out to Cleveland-based businesses that are in cannabis business. It would be helpful. I know Ariane Kirkpatrick is the only black female owner that has licenses for cannabis, and there might be a few others. Just to pick their brain if they had a personal experience with this convention and what their reputation is. Just a suggestion.
That's a good suggestion, Michael. Trevor, Debbie? Bob?
Mr. Chair, this is Trevor. I don't have any issues with this show going forward. I agree with potentially just amending this eventually to add the word illegal, right? I mean, now sports betting is legal. I don't know if there was some sports betting show that wanted to come here. Would that fall under gambling? So things of that nature, I think, should be revisited, but I have no problem going forward with the show.
And by the way,
Yeah.
Trevor, it would, so once again, if that's something I mean, maybe there has to be just a lot of consideration to what we want to do with respect to item 2.
Rules have changed.
Yeah, just sort of a quick question. From my perspective, I presume there's a provision in the agreement that prohibits any illegal use, period. So I would strike 2 altogether, just completely strike it out, and then have a prohibition on any illegal activity. There are things that are legal that we don't want to happen, like number 3, which is the sale of firearms. We don't care whether it's legal or not. We do not want that to happen at the site. But the other stuff, I would just say, I would just have a prohibition on all illegal activities, and without having to get into whether illegal drug paraphernalia, bingo, but the real question that I have, I don't have a problem with this at all. I think this is from a different generation. But the question that I have for Ron is, just for peace of mind, do we think there is any impact on any other vendors, any other exhibitors, any other users of the convention center, would the fact that we allow a cannabis convention impact their decisions to be here or not? That's the only concern that I would have.
Great question, Majid, and I do not see that being an issue. It has not been an issue in any of the other facilities. And I really don't see that as being an issue here, but that is a great question and something to be mindful of.
Debbie, I think you were about to jump in.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, like Trevor, I've run this by the county executive. I've talked to law. We don't have a problem with going forward. But I think before we remove any of the other language that's in there, I'd like to just run those things by too. I get that we're in a different time, but I don't want to just start striking things without at least having those conversations.
And Debbie and Majid, I mean, we can't unilaterally modify paragraph 2. Just keep in mind, all that is simply a restatement in the ASM agreement with the conditions imposed upon the CCCFDC by the county. So we may have recommendations, but we cannot unilaterally modify any of those uses without the agreement of the county.
Oh, fully understood. There's two
Yeah.
parties to the agreement. Both parties have to
Right.
consent.
I just want to make that clear.
But I am also supportive of cleaning up the language so that we don't have to, so that what we're saying is prohibited, we truly at this time feel is prohibited. So I think let's have that conversation going forward.
All right, so
The only thing I was just saying, guys, is that, I don't want to confuse. So I think if something is illegal, it should be prohibited, period. I mean, without regard to whatever it is.
Right.
I presume that the purpose of these lists is things that may be legal, but as a matter of policy, we don't want them there. So if we start putting the word illegal in number 2, you create more confusion. I think just an outright prohibition on any illegal activity. And then these, as a matter of policy, we pick the ones that we don't want. And I understood this is negotiated between different parties. Everybody has to agree to it. I'm just, as a question of clarity, in my mind, I would not add the word illegal in the middle of this. I would just have an outright prohibition on everything illegal, and then just think through what things that are legal, but we do not want to have as a matter of policy, and we put those here.
Yeah,
Right.
Brigitte, I think you're right.
All right, so what I would suggest is that we ask for a motion to allow Jeff to start those conversations back with the county to address these issues and see how we can clean this language up so it better reflects how business is done today. So if that is the case, do I have a motion to do that?
So moved.
Second,
Motion- So the motion made by Michael Obi, seconded by Majid McClure. Julie, can you call the roll, please?
Sure. Debbie Berry,
Yes.
Jeff Epstein, David Gilbert,
yes,
Majid McClue,
Yes.
Trevor McAleer,
Yes.
Michael Obi,
Yes.
Tim Oftermatt,
yes,
Rashonda Smith,
yes,
and Mayor Sellers.
Yes, so Jeff, that now allows you to open the door to have the dialogue with the county. See how we can address that so it satisfies the concerns of this board.
And we'll do that.
Okay.
And then I think you still need to vote on this particular show right now.
Mr. Chair, before we do that, can I just ask Jeff a quick question?
Yeah.
And we can talk about it later, Jeff, but on item 3 that was on the list about the firearms, and Majid probably remembers this, and there's probably a distinction there that I have no idea, but we've tried to do that at the fairgrounds and we've had no luck. And I'm just curious of how we can do it here.
Well, how you can do what restricted?
Yeah.
We haven't been challenged yet.
Yeah.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Okay, all right.
Leave it at- And I think there was something, Trevor, about fairgrounds, because there's the commission that runs the fairgrounds, and I know we tried to ban gun sales and all that stuff there, and without success, but I think there was specific issues for fairgrounds for gun shows that we're not a fairground here. It's under a very different
Yeah,
world.
I have to go back and review, we talked about that. It's been a while. I want to go back and review that. I do want to point out one thing though, just to your point. Even when these prohibited uses were developed, everything on number 2 that is legal. So while you couldn't do something with illegal drugs, there was nothing illegal about having drug paraphernalia. I mean, head shops. While marijuana was illegal, head shops sold, all the paraphernalia. So there's actually nothing in number 2 that is illegal. The idea when that was done was to prohibit uses which frankly were legal.
No, I think that's precisely the point that I was trying to make, Jeff,
Right.
is that these are legal uses that we're prohibiting as a matter of policy. And I just thought if we just add the word illegal here, then we create confusion as to, I think
But
the point
real-
of it is you strike number 2 altogether.
The real question is a matter of policy, and we didn't discuss this, because, I can go back to the county, but the real question, and maybe now's not the time, is a matter of policy. Is there anything on that list that we would not want to, as a matter of policy, not have at the convention center, or would we be in the position that we would consider any one of those events depending on how it was presented? That's really the question.
I think once you go back and start a dialogue with the county.
Yeah, I mean, that's a much bigger discussion with the county, for the political officials to make. But, when you even think of gambling right now, we have a casino and there is this all, bingo. I think that there was a negative. So, but again, that's me speaking. There are other people who have much more at stake, But if I were the decision maker, I would completely strike 2 altogether. I don't see anything there. But that's me personally, not the political figures that have to make their decisions.
Yeah, so you gotta go back and clean this up. I'm gonna tell you shortly, it's gonna be, the freaking gambling machine's gonna be inside the arenas and the stadiums here shortly. All right, so, yeah, this is some time from before.
Yeah, my only point is it has nothing to do with legal or illegal.
Right.
That's my only point.
Well, some of this stuff, Jeff, I think like gambling, there are limitations. You can't gamble. I mean, even in the Constitution, they put the permanent parcel numbers in where you can gamble. It's not, so you can't gamble somewhere off-site or something like that. Bingo is the difference. There are some rules that go with that. So, but again, I in my mind, you achieve all of that by just having an outright prohibition on illegal activity, whatever it may be. and then we just don't need any of the.
I'm gonna tell you, that already exists.
All right, so.
That already exists.
That I thought it must be there. Yeah, that's why I was saying.
It is.
Okay, so we're gonna we'll get Jeff to start the dialogue and then come back to us after you've had a couple conversations and see where this is headed, right? And then we can kind of narrow the scope. All right, the next, why are we voting on this show if we don't?
Well, so let me say it a different way. Right now, there's a prohibition about any use involving drug paraphernalia. As long as the board is comfortable that this show does not violate that, we'll move forward. But I'm not, it's ambiguous.
So I'll make a motion to authorize Ron.
That you have no issue.
So hold on.
I'll make a motion to authorize Ron to go ahead and negotiate.
Hold on. So we may not have an issue. The county have an issue?
No, we're comfortable going forward, but we would like to clean the language up ultimately.
Yeah, I've talked about this with Greg Huth, and I believe the county would not have an issue if we don't have an issue.
Correct.
I think that's the way that they told me.
So Greg Huth can make a recommendation, right?
Well,
The people would have to approve it, right? It's not Greg Huth.
what I was told is that the county would not have an issue if we don't have an issue. That's what I was told.
Trevor?
I thought Debbie said she spoke with the executive directly on this, right?
Yeah.
I did. And
Yep.
again, we're
Yeah,
comfortable.
which is fine, but he doesn't have a vote. Trevor?
Yeah, I agree.
What'd you say, Trevor?
I agree. I mean, from the discussion with the council president, I mean, no issues here.
Right. So we could be all good on this side. I don't wanna get slammed by something we don't see coming. Right, okay, so if everybody's good with it, okay. All right. All right, then, Majid, you gonna make a motion?
Sure. Based on the representations that the county executive and the county council are okay with this, I move to go ahead and authorize Ron. I move to go ahead and authorize Ron to negotiate and get this show in place.
There's a second?
The second.
Do we,
I appreciate you, Mike Oldby. Julie, call the roll, please.
Debbie Berry,
Yes.
Majid McClue,
Yes.
Trevor McAleer,
yes, as long as Majid's okay with it.
Michael Obi,
Yes.
Tim Oftermatt,
Yes.
Rashonda Smith,
Yes.
and Mayor Sellers.
Yes, all right, thank you, guys. The next quarterly meeting is April 26th at 8:30 in the morning.
One thing I'd say, two things. Trevor and Debbie, the April 26th meeting is when we'd like to have the nominations for the board members. And we sent out some memos on that, and if you can, it'd be nice to have that, because that's what our board is, the members are terms up on April 26th. We have a provision in our bylaws that say that if we don't have a nomination before that, the correct board member stays.
Can continue, right?
Continue on it. So we'd like.
Yeah.
to-
When's the next-
I
when's the
think
next
we'll be
meeting after
good
that?
from our end.
April
Okay, good.
26th,
No, after April 26th, the next meeting is when?
July
July
26th.
26th, okay.
July 26th is the next board meeting, and that's the one we're scheduled. I think we sent you all emails on that. They were scheduling a grand opening of the
Right,
expansion,
Okay.
the expansion.
right.
That's gonna be run from like 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock, something like that.
Okay.
12 hours. And if you know of anybody that's down on the list, let us know. We'll put them on our list.
All right,
And-
so the next,
I'm sorry, this is Debbie. Did you say, George, that you sent out a letter or something related to the board appointments? I don't know that I got that.
I sent it
Debbie, it
out.
came from Jeff.
Oh, from
It came
Jeff.
from me, and it went to everybody.
When was that?
I'll resend it to you, Debbie.
That'd be great. Thank you. Sorry about that.
all right, the next quarterly meeting is April 26th, 2024, 8:30 a.m. Julie will send out the location.
Yes.
Other than that, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded by
Second.
someone? All right,
Second.
all in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you, guys. The meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.